lot of you are coming in thinking we're going to do resilience training, but who has heard that the resilience program's changed? Sweet. So I'm just going to give you an overview today of how it's changed, what it looks like, what are the expectations for us as the RTI, why it's important to us as soldiers, as sections, as squads, and then why it's important for the command. So at the end, if you have any questions, or has anybody gone through the training besides Sergeant Campfield? Anyone else? Okay. So it's new to everyone, and that's totally fine. But this is a quarterly requirement for us, and so that's why we're going to go through it now so that we can begin next month if you so choose. So we're going to just go over the background, what it's tied to, why it's important, and then like I said, expectations. We'll review some of the materials. These materials aren't for everyone. They are for technically the squad leader. What's unique about our organization, we're going to have to kind of play around with the program a little bit and see how it fits us the best, because guess what, we're all in a little bit higher level position in leadership, and we operate much differently than a typical MTO unit does. So we're going to make it work for us. But first and foremost, who's seen the Minnesota Camp Plan, the new camp plan that's published? No? Yes? You don't like it? It is what it is, right? It's going to take us through 2019 to 2021. So I just pulled some stuff out of it, but really, first and foremost, people first. So again, just connecting the dots for you as we take a look at why are we doing this. It's about the organization and it's about people, for the most part, is what you'll see through this program. And I just pulled some things out of the op order. So the state op order, so improving the wellness and resilience of service members, line of effort 3, line of action 3, and then that's on the left-hand side. So it says this LOA focuses on improving the wellness and resiliency of our soldiers and airmen by providing resilience trainers, completing required wellness training, and training suicide intervention officers to provide resources for unit success. Then later on it talks about the service member and family resiliency. For family programs, the Minnesota National Guard must provide support for soldiers, airmen, and their families. Our families will be supported by robust community-based services and programs that enhance resiliency and provide support before, during, and after deployment. So if we have resilient soldiers, if we're working on ourselves, that is part of the piece to the family as well. And as we know, this is not the end-all be-all unit, so at some point we're all going to move on and go back out to a line unit, field unit, or whatnot. And then at the bottom there, just a quick screenshot. So why this is important for us, our boss goes to the QRC. On that quarterly basis, this is going to be reviewed by all brigade level commands. So our ability to complete this task is part of the state op order. And so not only from a soldier standpoint, but also from an expectation the state has put out for us. There's some sheets over here. You signed in on one. I just created a tool for us. For the most part, like you can see on the right, by change 1 already of the TY19 guidance, this has to get into DTMS. So when you review the training, when you compile the training within your battalions, what we're going to need to do is make sure that we get it into DTMS. So this is a tool. You can use this if it works for you as a section leader or a squad leader, or however we're going to break up our sections. You can use this tool to track it, put in your leader book or whatnot. But at the end of the day, battalions, headquarters, we have to get it in DTMS for feeding the SMS system so that it gets loaded into the metrics. Any questions so far? Pretty simple. All right. So part of the background, I just want to read verbatim from the op order here. It says the Minnesota Army National Guard has grown, changed in structure, and worked at a high operational tempo. That has allowed few opportunities for personnel to reset as they face everyday personal and professional challenges. Since 2007, the National Guard has experienced 1,093 deaths by suicide, with the Minnesota Army National Guard experiencing 56 of those deaths. In 2013, the Army developed the Ready and Resilient campaign to help combat suicides and increase resilience among our soldiers. The R2 campaign provides commanders and leaders with the capabilities needed to enable soldiers to achieve and sustain personal readiness and resilience, foster an environment of trust, and optimize human performance in environments of uncertainty and persistent danger. Part of the reason why we went through, and I was talking to the program leads prior to delivering this, and sorry, feel free to chime in, but one of the things that we've all maybe experienced a little bit even here at the RTI is that the program hasn't really changed over the last few years, right? And so when Tay came in, one of his focuses and the guidance that was shared with the full-time staff at Cottage Grove was he wanted a new program, something that was accessible at the soldier level, something that focused on how do we get to go back to the basics of getting to know our soldiers a little bit more, right? And so that's why the two requirements are when we deliver this training, it's at a squad level. And so it's leaders with their soldiers, or it's leaders and peers with peers and having discussions and connecting on that personal level. And then number two, that's why today, in a second, I'll have you take a look at, we'll just kind of review this. If you have any questions, you can ask questions at that point. I'm allowed to say I don't know, but I will get an answer for you on it. But we'll review this and take a look at what's coming up, or how do we leverage this tool within your own sections. And so, as I was talking to some of you may know Darlene Wetterstrom. She's a psychological health coordinator, and she kind of walked me through a little bit more of the program. But her and I discussed, like, hey, we have a lot of E6 and above, and how is that going to look when we have groups of instructors that are peers, and is it going to be the same, or is it going to be different? And right now, we don't really know what that's going to look like for us. And so I think what I would ask as maybe an expectation is, we got to get feedback on this, and how does it look for us, because we're not the only organization that's top heavy and that has a lot of experienced leaders. But that's something, as you look through the material, that we're going to want to maybe have as an output. Any other questions so far? So what I'm going to do is there isn't one for everybody. Like I said, typically it would be for a squad leader. So take one for every couple of people, and then just kind of flip through it, get familiarized with it, see what the topics are, see if you have any other thoughts on the program. And as you're thinking through this, so I think about my section in the S1 shop, right? Yeah, I'm the highest ranking leader in that office, but I'm not the one that has to deliver this training. And as you look at your sections, I think we're all probably capable of leading these discussions. So as you're flipping through, think about a topic that maybe is relevant to the RTA. I mean, not maybe your section, but flip through, and then I just want to get a quick share back on, like, what does that look like for the RTI? Maybe what are some things that might be relevant in your discussions over the last year that maybe we could start off as a starting point to take a look at these training topics. So everybody got one? Is everybody able to look at one? We got.
So as far as these relationships, for the MSLIC section, we own our students for 28 days straight.
Yep.
There's a lot of issues that some of these students are having throughout it, and we try to have an open communication with them from day one to have a level of understanding. Like our last cycle, we had a student whose wife was an amputee and was going through dialysis and was having a lot of medical issues, and still trying to complete his NCOES throughout the course. So the stressors at home were developing on the academic side, and throughout we were able to push his training differently to allow better feedback for him and still be prominent in the training and be successful in it. So it's having that open communication regardless of rank or stature.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's a great example of how we can even use it with our students that are coming in that we only have for a short amount of time. So hopefully, again, and as you look through the relationship piece, the intent of this quick series type format book is for us to have a discussion starter, or a way of just presenting information to have a discussion. Do you see that when you're looking at it? Do you see, like, if you were going to pick one topic out of that you'd be able to start a conversation? Does it give you enough content to have a discussion on that? Anyone else have maybe a topic that you, as you're flipping through, see as a relevant topic to start out with? Or Sergeant Canfield, while they're looking, do you have any other input or thoughts from when you went through the course on how they presented it? Any other nuggets of information for us?
There's many different ways that you can present it. You can start with like something personal, kind of. You know, like this has been bugging me. How would you handle it? It's kind of to help you get through some situations. So say I'm having issues with money or something, then us as a group can discuss different ways we can try to get out of that. If somebody else in that group has had that issue, then it just kind of helps them like, okay, I can try that, or, you know, it's kind of more personal, and that's why they want to do it more at a smaller level, just so, because we know our soldiers, we know our peers. It doesn't always have to follow the same thing. It can change. So, you know, Sergeant Rosner and I, we're together all the time, so there might be something within her life that, you know, I noticed that she's struggling with. So this is a perfect example to, you know, look at this book, see how this book reflects her, and then we can talk about it. It's just kind of to help you through life and see those red flags if there happens to be one.
Yeah, it's a great recap of it. Sir?
The goal that once a quarter you hit one of these areas or one topic.
Yes, sir.
So there's the blue section, whatever it is, brown and tan.
It could be a section, or it could be just a topic, sir. So I think what's important for what TAG didn't want was that we were going to direct, it's going to be 1 hour worth of training and you're going to finish it by this time, right? That wasn't the intent of the program. The intent of the program is you see the need as leaders, you reference this, you can maybe hit 3-4 different topics in a quarter because it's at the forefront of your mind, or you're having these conversations with your soldiers. But at a minimum, what they're looking for is quarterly, we're having some kind of a discussion related to some of these topics. It can take 15 minutes, it can take an hour. You can do it in a classroom setting, you can do it over lunch, right? Like the intent of this program is again, it's how do we get connected back to our soldiers, and how do you support each other? And if it's a PowerPoint presentation, I think sometimes you lose that genuine interaction that allows us to build up our ranks with that foundation of trust and support, right? What other thoughts do we have on it? I got one. Yeah. The one we talked about? Huh? The one we talked about? Hold on. What day? Alright.
So, we all, every month, the Command Sergeant Major Wortham gets a roll-up of DUIs in the state. This reads it, right? It's all tied together, it all nests together. And then every quarter, the TAG chews on the time our brigade commanders and the staff and fix DUIs. Which it is, you know, that's a problem. We have a problem in our formation. It's a problem everywhere. When I say our formation, I'm talking the entire state. But I see them as a G3 Sergeant Major. I get the CCIRs come through my desk every day, and we're getting them onesies, twosies every week. So I was just talking with, everybody know Warren Anthony, retired Master Sergeant? He does a course on the sobriety course, where the DUIs that we're getting isn't the raging alcoholics. It's those soldiers that thought they were okay. You know, I got, you know, go to lunch, go to dinner, have a couple beers, and they're getting pulled over because they won too many over. So he does a course that teaches sobriety, teaches how to know where you are when you're drinking. If that's something you guys want to do, I can have him shoehorn into our training schedule to come and help out. And he challenges you a 30-day sobriety and stuff like that. And then it's leadership by association of your peers. Of, you know, it's just kind of like that battle buddy thing. For those of us that like to have a drink, it's just something to challenge us as people. So again, it'll help you with resilience and so on and so forth. So talk about it in your formations, and if you guys want it, I can lock it in with him. He just did one yesterday with another element of the brigade command, so the brigade combat team. So if you guys want to, let me know, and we can go down that road. It's just another way of building resiliency with it, and then getting after another problem at the same time. Cool?
You talking about the pedal cart stuff that he's done?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So expound upon that. What do you mean?
So anybody done that goggle stuff with him? Pretty neat, isn't it? You know, you talk about the effects of, hey, I think, you know, I've had my 2 or 3, I think I'm all right, but it talks about the different blood alcohol levels and stuff. So he's got different goggles that simulate what your eyes, what you're perceiving when you're at these different blood alcohol levels. So it's pretty neat because they did it where they set up a course with like cones and stuff where you're doing the pedal carts. So you're sitting there trying to drive with these glasses, emulating the different levels. So it's kind of a fun thing. Obviously not this time of year, but it'd be something like June or July or something like that if we can fit it in.
He even said that he brings in a breathalyzer, and so I don't know if you guys have, if you drink during it, then you do a breathalyzer to see. I always, right? Which is,
So when we went through the substance abuse training, it's like a 2 or 3 day course. He brings in there's panels of people or whatnot, but we all went to the hangar and had some cocktails.
Right.
And he brought a breathalyzer in. So, and some bars in the metro or all over have these breathalyzers. So you're constantly breathalyzing yourself to see where you're at. Like after your second one, you're thinking, okay, 2 and I'm done. I was over the limit at 2 for me. And I mean, taking into account, you know, eating supper or not eating supper and all those things too. But
right.
it was really interesting and it was really like, it was eye-opening.
Yeah, it helps you change
Mhm.
for the better, so. Cool. Yeah, no, I'm with you, Charles. I like here.
All right, so let's do a quick, I just want to ask a couple questions, see if we understand a little bit of kind of the direction. So who's supposed to deliver this training? Squad leaders. For us, it could be anyone, right? Like if you're in a line unit, probably your squad leader is delivering the training, but for us, my plan would be like, hey, Sergeant Epson, you're taking it this time. Sergeant Robinson, you got it next quarter, right? And we're just having that discussion. Or who knows, right? Maybe you're a tight-knit group, and you're talking about this stuff all the time, right? And so that could be the reality. What's the frequency of the training? Minimum quarterly, which probably leads into my next, not my next question, but what's the size of the group then? Kind of already said it. Squad, right? We're not trying to do this as a battalion. We're not trying to do this as a regiment going forward. There might be times where you're like, hey, this is a really good topic, or this is a really good exercise. We're going to bring Warren Anthony in, and we're going to do this as a regiment. There's nothing wrong with that. But realistically, you're looking at your squad size element. And then what is the significance at the soldier level that we talked about? Why is it important at the soldier level to do this kind of training? I heard it.
Because you get that more one-on-one. You're probably getting it from your leader that you work with on an everyday or any day versus having some person come in a large setting like this. You're probably not going to get more of the participation. You may not open up in front of a large crowd versus maybe a small group when they're first on in there.
Absolutely.
Comfort.
Yeah, you probably know your soldier better.
You know your soldier better, comfort. It's one-on-one. It's a little bit easier to have a conversation about this stuff with the leaders that are supporting you, with your peers that are supporting you. How does training or not training impact the command and the RTI? What's the impact if we don't do this and we don't record it? Right? I mean, that's easy, right? We're on the naughty list. It's gonna get reported, right? How else does it impact the command though?
You end up with a command that's out of touch with its soldiers, and soldiers that may end up going through multiple different things at once without the command's direct knowledge, and then you end up with low morale and low overall
Absolutely.
state of being.
Command climate, right? Culture. So if we don't do it, that's fine. It's just an extra thing to do. But what's the impact of not being able to connect with each other and with our soldiers? So yeah, Warren Anthony was here. Our URI results came in. I don't know him yet. He was going to sit down with the boss and talk to Colonel Bobo about it. But at some point in the near future, I'm sure we're going to hear what the URI results came back, right? And I think what's important about that is that can give us a starting point too, right? You might see it in your section, hey, we got to talk about this, we got to talk about that. But as an organization, now we got some pretty good data that can help us have some conversations that may or may not apply to us, right? Because we all answered that survey, we all filled it out, and it was anonymous, and so we don't know what kind of issues might be in this room. But that might give us an opportunity to kind of help each other out that way as well. And then what happens, and if an example or a question in this book, if you're like, I'm going to talk about relationships, and then what happens if it doesn't make sense for your group? Modify it, right? Because we have one thing that I've learned over with this organization is we have such intelligent leaders, and the instructor perspective that everyone brings, you want to modify things and make it better, not only because it makes it easier to probably teach, but it makes it better for the organization and for the Army. And so here's our opportunity as well. Keep the same mentality. If something doesn't make sense or we have recommendations, we should feed that back through our psychological health coordinators and do that R3SP program. Because as we all know, that it's not a one-size-fits-all conversation. But to Sergeant Canfield's point, there's different approaches. So hey, this is what I'm going through at home. This is really bugging me. That could be an approach to bring up a conversation, right? Or hey, you know, my brother's going through a little anxiety, depression. What resources do we have in the state? What do you guys know about it? You know, tell me a little bit about this, or how you supported a family member through that, right? I mean, those are just different ways that you can bring it up. So don't get stuck and saying, well, the book doesn't say, or the book says that we have to do it this way. That's not what this program's all about. Use your intelligence and your ability to have that genuine conversation. Cool. And so that pretty much wraps up the NSA. So the last thing that I have for you is if you're a squad leader, you just take one for your sections. The way that I kind of asked for books was I took a look at our wire diagrams or our org charts, and I just kind of looked like, here's a group of instructors, here's the S4 section, here's this section, and so I kind of just guessed on how many books we needed per section. So just take one per section. I have a couple of these rosters, so if you want to track it as a leader yourself and you want to get everybody's name on it and keep it for your own records, that way at the end of the quarter you can submit it through the battalion to get it in DTMS. I printed some extra copies off. And then the last thing, as I was talking to Darlene about, she gave me a couple sheets of paper. I hung one outside the S1 office here, but it talks about accessing mental health services through a program called Give an Hour. So free counseling services through this program. And then there's also one on here about accessing mental health services through Military OneSource, whether it's face-to-face, online, telephone, video counseling, things like that. So there's 2 pages there, so if you're gonna grab one off of the table, just grab both pages so you have both of the resources. And then going forward, as I've talked to the S3 shop, we're just looking to make sure that you're tracking it, and then come March, we'll probably do a quick, not an audit, but just a quick check to see that we're getting it loaded up in DTMS. So it's up to you. You know, as cliche as it sounds, go out and do great things. I mean, take care of your soldiers. And if you have questions, Sergeant Canfield has gone through the training, I myself. And then if you would like, I can also send you the op orders and everything that describes what the requirements are for SIO training, for substance abuse, things like that. It's all in this op order, so if you specifically want to take a look at what the requirements are, otherwise you'll probably hear through the S3 shop coming down to make sure that we've all fulfilled those requirements.
Just to answer what you're talking about with the different units tracking it, I'll be running around making sure that it's being done and keeping more of a monthly visibility on where we're at with this. Just so if I understand we all have 1,000 things going on, but just to make sure everyone stays on track and we're tracking it as well. So you might be seeing me stopping in and saying, hey, what's going on with your resiliency training, where are you at, and whatnot.
I just want to say one quick thing. And I try to tell the officer candidates that we have this because I know that they're going to face this in the future. So this may not pertain to most people in the room, but it might pertain to one or two. If soldiers are continually coming to you with their problems, or calling you and they're texting you, it's only because of one thing, and it's because they trust you that you can help them. And Colin Powell said it best, and I'll paraphrase. He said, when soldiers stop coming to you with their problems, it's either because of two things. One, they don't believe that you care, or two, they don't think that you can help them. And both of those are a failure of leadership, is what he says. So there's times where it's like, damn, it's freaking Saturday at 10 o'clock at night and you're getting these problems again. And if it hasn't happened to you yet, it will happen to you at some point in your career. But just know that they trust you, and you don't have to solve their problems alone. You're just the first person they went to. Because, I mean, you can call anybody else in this room, and there's a whole peer group that's going to help you solve their problems with you.
I'm not gonna say anything else. Appreciate it. Thanks for the input. That's awesome. Thanks, everyone.